Hi, everyone. I'm Pooja Warrior Hamilton. I'm the Chief Partnerships Officer from Apolitical. I am really honored to be hosting this important and timely conversation on agility, innovation, and the government renewal challenge. I have a difficult task today. We've got brilliant 4 panelists with a wealth of experience, and I've got to make sure we get the most out of their experience and knowledge. So we have Her Excellency Huda AlHashimi, Deputy Minister of Cabinet Affairs for Strategic Affairs in the UAE. His Excellency Vahan Kerobyan, Ministry of Economy from the Republic of Armenia. His Excellency YoSik, Kang, President of Seoul Digital Foundation, Republic of Korea. And His Excellency Rolands Lappuke, Smart Technology Advisor to the President, Republic of Latvia. So I'll start with Your Excellency Huda. In the opening plenary, Professor Schwab said that we are not in a state of crisis, but in a state of deep systemic transformational process. As a thought leader on agility and innovation, how important do you think agility is for governments to actually navigate this period of transformation?
I think we're all sitting in the Agile Government Forum, so we know its importance, by the fact that we're here. But I mean, let's go back. With every crisis, really there comes a moment where agility and resilience take center stage. People tend to forget about it when things are normal. But when a crisis comes, that's when it really takes a center stage. And I don't think, and I don't believe you can really manage a crisis without those attributes. But what governments have really soon realized that once the crisis is over, there are 2 ways to go about it. Either you go back to the way things were, and in the stability of the way things were, or you learn from that crisis and the agile formats and the agile attributes that you worked in, be it in procurement or HR or finance, and you go through that transformation. And I believe that's what Professor Schwab meant by the transformation process is a process of learning to be more agile. And how do we learn to be more agile? Is learning from other countries that went through the similar crisis and how they came out faster, more stronger, and we're able to convert that into opportunities. So really what we always say, and it's a very common message, is that don't ever let a crisis go to waste. Learn from that, but also move on from that into transformation. And the transformation process is, I believe, probably a much harder process than a crisis process, because you always don't have the sense of urgency that you tend to have in a crisis. You will sort of say, we can delay this, we have other priorities. But I believe very strongly that agility is a priority in government. No government that doesn't have that at the top of their agenda can succeed, la samahallah, another crisis that comes their way. But one other thing that I also want to emphasize is that people think of agility as the only way that governments should function. And really, to be honest, agility is built on a stable foundation. So if governments don't have the stability that is there, what we call the business as usual, it is hard to be agile. And maybe I'll give you a concrete example of what we have in the UAE. 15 years ago, the government decided to go very strongly on performance management, strategy, planning, and it did it at a countrywide level. Every ministry and authority that we have in our country has a strong strategy. It has a strong process, and it's built on strong KPIs, and it's measured. Today, that's business as usual. So 15 years ago, that was a transformation, but today that's business as usual. And we need to then focus on what is the agility in that now. So we can only move to the next level, which is the agility, is because we have that solid, stable base. And that solid, stable base has allowed us 2 years ago in the United Arab Emirates to move to what we call transformative programs. And transformative programs is really focusing on the 4 to 5 most important programs that entity needs to deliver in 6 months to 1 year. And hence, to be able to do that, they need to have an agile environment, agile budgeting, agile resource planning, agile decision making. And that's where we're saying, so it's the marriage between the agility of the most priority programs, but at the same time, it's built on a very strong and stable foundation. This is maybe in a domain that I'm familiar with and areas that I'm looking at. But I just came out of another talk from digital schools. And that's the same scenario there as well. With digital school, 10 years ago, the country built on strong infrastructure, on the digital infrastructure, the hard infrastructure, the right tools, the right programming to do that. And when the crisis hit, which was COVID, the seamless transition to the agile mode of hybrid learning and digital learning was possible. Had we not had that stable foundation, I don't think we were able to achieve that.
I think one amazing thing is also the timeline for agile projects. You mentioned 6 months to 1 year, which is quite different from quite often government projects usually. Your Excellency Vahan, you probably had similar or lesser time to focus on your role as Minister of Economy. What would be amazing for the audience to hear is how you came to take on that role and how you transformed the ministry in your time there.
I've been in business for more than 25 years and had a successful business in food delivery for countries, and was founder and of course IT team and all these agile and Scrum techniques all were available. As in private business, you can choose and you can fire easily and hire. In the government, it's not so, and you have to work with people that are already there, and that's an important thing to realize, and to first of all work to change or to transform the people, because sometimes, and it's even if you're a top executive or top government official, you are not able to choose people that with whom you work, but then you can change them. This is very important. So, and we spend a lot of time and resources to change people that work in the ministry. And then, of course, after some time, I realized that the structures that the government bodies have or ministries have are not agile, actually. So they collect similar people in the same groups, in the groups, and you then want them to develop a project, but for a project you need different skill set. So, and then we changed the structure of the ministry in a way that we group different skill set or different functions in groups that can produce final products. So in IT business or in product companies, it's easy. Everyone understands. So if to produce a feature, you will need someone who is a back-end developer or front-end developer or mobile app developer. So the same or similarly, we group together people that are good in finance or good in law and then good in their field, so, and then they together could produce. So, and after some time, we could enjoy the change also in the performance. Our ministry, like in number terms, yes, I mean, in the quality terms, it's different, but in number terms, our ministry used to produce less than 10% of the government decrees, and it's more than 20%. And now we try to also introduce this model to our colleagues. Yes. Yeah, and of course all that my colleague said is also there. I mean, strategy is important, but it's a usual business as usual. But you also have to be agile and to work in the agile mode so that you can also meet the difficulties. I mean, last year, I mean, everything changed, and especially for Armenia, because we are in the same economic union with Russia. And when the war happened, it was like immediate, like many uncertainties coming out there, and we were able to form a task force immediately, like in 2 hours, to form a task force to, like in 2 weeks' time, engage McKinsey to understand what we have to do to minimize the risks and to maximize the output. And actually, with McKinsey, we identified 35 key things to do, and we were able to do most of them throughout the year. So, and as a result of it, Armenia last year enjoyed 14% GDP growth, which is I think one of the best in the world, and at the same time they one of the lowest inflations, and GDP per capita has increased 50%. So this is the result that we could achieve in 2022. Trade between UAE, and I'm especially proud of that because my friends, Minister Al-Mari and Minister of State Dr. Tane Al-Zeudi were very supportive, and the trade between Armenia and UAE grew 7 times, and it's now standing at $1.5 billion this year, 2022.
Such remarkable, incredible results in such a short period of time. I want to come back to, in a bit, about just the importance of culture change, and I'll talk about that in a second. Dr. Kang, in many ways, innovation and agility is in the DNA of the Seoul Digital Foundation and all the pioneering work that you do. Can you tell us a bit more about the foundation and a few of the initiatives that you're leading?
I am YoSik Kang, the president of Seoul Digital Foundation. I am very happy to be here, and it is a night to see you all. Seoul Digital Foundation is purpose of realizing a smarter city in Seoul. We purpose of it, we have 4 visions. First, to realize science administration based on Metaverse and AI. Second, to create inclusive smart city by digital education. Third, to develop innovation by supporting digital startups. Fourth, to create ecosystem for Metaverse Seoul. Let's go back to the topic. We are making various efforts to utilize digital technology for the safety of 10 billion Seoul citizens. About construction safe, AI-based cloud system for detecting risk in construction site is developed to prevent accidents at small and medium-sized construction area, where safe measurements are relatively low. It is done by analyzing CCTV images in real time and making alarm when dangerous situation occurs. For example, it can detect no helmet or rescue signs from workers and prevent workers from falling. It is important because it can give them immediate response as well as prevention. I would like to talk about GEO AI. AI-based detection of city changes users aerial photos to detect transition areas in Seoul City. It will be used to uncover construction of unlicensed buildings or illegally extended buildings. Until now, the city of Seoul has taken aerial photos every year to detect changes in the city, and professionals compare and analyze them to see what part is severely changed. However, it is expected that we can save cost and time required for analyzing dramatically by using AI-based system. I would like to talk about aging bridge. AI-based bridge defect detection system is technology that automatically detects defects in bridge by analyzing bridge images captured by drone. Last year, we make 30,000 pieces of learning data for the development of an AI-based bridge defect detection system. And this year, we plan to upgrade AI model so that it can support actual bridge safety inspections. The AI-based detection system will sense by safety of inspection workers on the bridge, especially reduce the cost and time for bridge inspection, changing the paradigm of bridge management system. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kang. I deliberately asked Dr. Kang to focus on one of the applications of AI because they're doing such incredible work across various industries. But what I found amazing was how the same technology is being used for the safety of workers, to actually reimagining areas, but also figuring out unlicensed buildings and so on. So the application is quite huge and broad. Your Excellency, Rolands, now we had a very interesting conversation about the role of history in agility, because often when we talk about agility, we focus on the future and progression. Can you tell us a bit more about agility in the context of the Latvian history and how you view that for your government?
Of course, with pleasure. I have to say also that when I'm hearing about changing people, I am also a neuroscientist. I have a PhD in neurosciences, and I always think of how difficult it is. We have the diencephalon cortex where we think rationally, but our emotions are in the limbic system, in the diencephalon, and that's two planets. And one of the problems is that you can change maybe the thinking, but not the emotions linked with the history. Yes, well, history, what does it mean? Everybody knows about Brexit, but I think I rephrased when the three Baltic states restored their independence at the same time as Armenia. We were in the same, you said the union. Now you are still in the economic union with Russia. 30 years ago, we made the contrary decision. We decided we don't want anymore to be part of this union because of totalitarian, because of imperialism. You see in Ukraine what it means today. Because of socialism, and this is about the economy, and because of colonialism, because there were people brought from outside to live, and they had the flats of our citizens, etc. So we made the choice, but at the difference for the Brits, when they expected that you have the cake and eat it, we knew that we were not going to have the cake and eat it. We had to recook it, because in 1992 we lost 50% of our GDP. Imagine 1992, there was 960% of inflation in Latvia, which means that we even couldn't go and visit our friends, because when you visit your friend, you bring flowers. And we couldn't afford the flowers in 1992. So we had to restart. That means that you have to be agile. You make a political decision which changes everything. Everything in the long run, of course, not everything today. And I would say that one of the main aspects, one of the main problems is the human factor, again, because you have at the same time people coming from the same background, but very different in their approach. I remember I was then in Germany as a diplomat, and I was asked 1994, 1995, we need a director for the office of the secret services. And I told them, and that's a catch-22, because we have to find somebody who has experience without a past. So the first one had no experience, and his future past was not poor, but he did his job. And the next one was a person with experience and a good past, because he had been brigade general in the British Army, Latvian. So this is how we solve this. You have to solve all the time impossible things. I mean, this is part of what you have to do. But then I still, for a Latvian, the glass is always half empty. When it's not perfect, that means we are bad. Latvians, we are bad. I can tell you this is the only thing that I can tell you for sure. We are sure of that. Extraordinarily, we are doing marvelous things. But somehow this is randomly by chance. I'm joking, of course. I read a book a while ago, a French book, written by Jean Stone, but the aspect is it's Stone, and his father was a Latvian political refugee, so I had the particular attention, and it's called Collective Intelligence. And he described there the case of the biggest, I think, company in Morocco. And I've been non-residing ambassador to Morocco, so I have some affinities and understanding. And they are the biggest exporters and producers of phosphate. This company has about, I may be wrong, but 27,000 employees. They were losing billions a year. And there came a CEO, and he changed the structure. So you have something feudal in the hierarchy. What we have all is more the modern type of managing, where it's very vertical, so it goes up. And the CEO installed a new approach, which was if somebody has an idea, and that is independent from his place in the hierarchy, he can find his like-minded people, form a group, and develop the idea. If the idea is good, well, it becomes a department after. And this is exactly, it helped me to understand that in Latvia, like in any place, you have people belonging to different historical cycle, but at the same moment. Don't expect to change everybody. I'm happy that you say that you had these categories and better managing, and after a couple of years, everybody, it's each day, or what did you say? It's normal business as usual. It is the case for a lot of things in Latvia, but still not for everything. 30 years ago, everybody had the Soviet past. And believe me, there are good things. Science is not so bad, especially physics, because you couldn't intoxicate physics with Marxism, so it was safe. These equations ignore the human ideology. But then a lot of those people have just died, and we have a young generation. So we have still part of the old thinking and a lot of a new one. So we still have to find our way sometimes. I would say that if we're talking about agility, I envy you because you are a young nation in the Emirates, and you have natural resources which now you are able to use very cleverly. Our only natural resource are our people, woods, maybe, and water, but nothing, which is a lot, but you can't sell it abroad. Ladies go and marry abroad, yes, but this is does not bring the input I would like in Latvia. And then you have to choose some tactical aspects in your. What can you do? I am working, because of my background in biology, in health, digital health. And here we have very good doctors, we have good scientists, and we have to modernize the approach. Still, there are a lot of conservative doctors. They are intelligent. It's not the issue of being intelligent or not. This is not an IQ issue. To be agile is, like Jean-Paul Sartre would have said, that freedom is a state of mind. Agility is a kind of state of mind. And so we try to find niches. So health technology, we have 5G was mentioned somewhere. So we have a 5G territory where we are inviting people. I can talk more about this, but this is the way that we are proceeding. We can't impose nothing on anybody, but we can be good promoters of platforms. So our role, what I see, is as a small country and a small nation, to try to see what can be interesting, let's say for the Emirates, and we are very active in the Nordic countries with them. We are like-minded with them, Lutherans, more or less Protestants. We have the ability, we have nothing to impose, so we are humble, and we try to play people together. So this is our agility with what we have.
And that's a wonderful example of how a country like Latvia can actually leverage both sort of international relationships, but also use your own strengths of promotion and for agility. Dr. Kang, you have a very exciting new project called the Metaverse, which is a public initiative. And if I'm right, it recently won the Smart City Award at the World Congress in Barcelona, if I'm not getting that incorrect. Would be great to hear what does that mean in practice for citizens, and just where the project is right now.
I am pleased to take this opportunity to introduce Metaverse Seoul. In October 2021, the City of Seoul announced the 5-year basic plan for the Metaverse Seoul platform. Based on this plan, we successfully carried out the pilot service, New Year's Eve Bell Festival, in which about 16,000 avatars participated. Over the next years or so, we completed the process of platform planning, development, testing, and certification. We promoted NFT for building a metaverse activation base, 3D object production contest, and metaverse ethic guide researches. At the end of last year, Metaverse Seoul was selected one of the 200 best innovations of 2022 by the Time magazine in the US, and Seoul, the mayor of Seoul, held a press conference on the January 16th to announce the official opening of Metaverse Seoul. The core value of Metaverse Seoul is freedom, inclusion, and connection. The Metaverse will be another major turning point in the internet environment, in that it will allow users to experience and immerse themselves in a three-dimensional virtual space. For example, if a physically challenged person has many restrictions on visiting an art museum, the Metaverse can convey a fresh image of the site and a new experience. When you install the Metaverse Seoul app, log in, create an avatar, and enter. There is my room. If you open the door from here, you will find 10 services gates. For example, Seoul Plaza, Seoul City Hall, FinTech Lab, Business Support Center, Complaint Service, Avatar Virtual Counseling Room, Tech Square, Seoul Mayor's Office, Seoul Attraction, World Citizen Land. Seoul Plaza and the inside of City Hall are very similar to things. A fun and beneficial experience is essential for Metaverse Seoul to be successful. Therefore, it is necessary to create a Metaverse ecosystem and connect it to job creation, cooperate business, and activating of citizen participation. World City Land, operated by the Seoul Digital Foundation, hosts various exhibitions and events. In addition, we will prepare Meta Pet that grow pet avatars of more than 10 types, and scheduled to open in early April this year. As a first mover that pioneers new fields, Seoul is leading the world in the Metaverse as well. We will create an ethical culture to allow citizens to participate in a healthy and safe manner within the Metaverse platform. In addition, in order to reduce the digital gap caused by Metaverse, we are preparing to develop Metaverse educational content and train and educate interaction. I hope that when environment is ready, cities around the world will hold the Metaverse City Council. If you are interested in Metaverse Seoul, please feel free to contact us anytime. I will happy to answer. Thank you.
I do that now.
Well, I would take up, I had the privilege of seeing the visuals of Metaverse on this morning, and if you get the chance, and if Dr. Kang has the time, you must make the time to see it. It's just incredible to see this in the virtual world. But I think one of the things that resonated deeply with me is that it can actually bring younger people closer to government because it's speaking to them in their environment that they're used to, which I think is a great thing for going forward. Your Excellency Vahan, Something you said yesterday about government should be built on algorithmic principles. And the first thing that struck me was that that's not how people in government think, or in our experience of work at Apolitical. How do you drive that cultural change? What are some of the things that you need to do to build that algorithmic thinking within government?
This is like sort of, it was eye-opening for me when I became minister, and I have to tell that like 5 years ago we have also made some change in our political system and removed corruption, and government is trying to ease business environment, to make everything clean and transparent, and we have very good success in that. We have dramatically improved all the indexes, etc. So, and in real life, everyone sees that change. But but then, I mean, when I started to examine how our laws designed, you could see a lot of space for deliberate choices for the officials. So in certain situations, they can choose to do several things, and then I can understand that this is the way, like, where officials use their power to choose, and maybe it's a room for corruption. So, and then when we say all the time digital transformation, etc., for me it's more, first of all, it's removing all the choices, I would say, for the officials. So the laws should be streamlined and the regulation should be streamlined, that in certain situation you have just one solution, and then people can remove and systems can work. So if there is a choice, system can't choose. And then we started to gradually remove all these corridors for human factor, I would say, that also are leading to delays and to corruption and to different power-using situations. But and as long as you're doing it, and it's becoming streamlined, fast, and you can digitalize that. The one thing that is obvious is that people don't want to give away their power, and usually you face a fierce resistance when you ask someone that, okay, so you want to choose this, so it's just a streamlined process. You don't have to deal with this at all, like giving licenses or deciding on certain situation. So recently, we removed a set of licenses from requirements that we have in different fields, like for winemaking or beer brewing. We used to have a license, but we removed it recently. But it took us 2 years to bring the decree to force, because people who are giving these licenses are actually losing their power, and we do everything to retain that power. So, and then, but for me, like when you're from business, you want to work less. Yes, you want to delegate so that everyone works. You don't work. So for me, I mean, one of the main things that we have to do, I mean, is that minimize the role of the government in people's life. Of course, we have to think about future. We have to change or do strategies, etc. But in real life, we have to make sure that businesses interact probably with the systems, but not with government, and they do their things fast, and and they will know the result before they, in the time when they apply, not because there will be no different decisions in that certain situation.
Brilliant. I think we had a similar discussion in our earlier panel about sort of the role of government vis-a-vis other stakeholders. Your Excellency Huda, now we've heard three very different contexts for agility and innovation with very different resources, approaches, and so on. What would be some of your top tips to governments that want to embrace agility and innovation?
So I'll try to look at it from all the different three perspectives, and maybe I think the first one is, and I think it's a must, is to ensure that there's leadership buy-in. Because if you don't have leadership buy-in, you won't be getting the support needed to make those changes happen. And you gave the example of the licensing, but I'm sure it took place because the leadership believed in it and overcome all the delays that happened. And for us, I think we are quite fortunate in the UAE that leaders truly believe in the concept of agility and have given us the space to be able to achieve that. I just want to go back to a point you made about the trade with the UAE and Armenia. That was one of the transformative projects. So that's exactly an example of a project that we worked with the Ministry of Economy on trade and free trade agreements. And that took years before. But when we focus it in an agile, transformative program, the fruits of the benefits was now rather than 10 years later. So leadership, so if I go back, leadership buy-in is another thing. But when I say leadership buy-in, I don't mean it just at the top tier. Leadership buy-in to be able to empower those that are below. One of the examples we have on that is that we've created a role in government called Chief Innovation Officers across every single entity. These Chief Innovation Officers have the leadership support by default that they report directly to the minister. So this portfolio of change and agility and innovation is tasked by someone who's probably a manager or a medium manager level in the government, but by the default that he needs to make that change and he needs leadership buy-in, he has direct access to the minister to enable him to make those changes. The second one is on platforms. Platforms is equally important in everything that we talked about. We are aware of regulatory sandboxing. We know about platforms to help. But really the commonality of all these platforms is a safe space to try and experiment and to allow people to make those changes happen. People fear change by default and by the nature of human being. So they wouldn't want to take the risk to make those changes happen. And agility means change as well. But giving them the platform and the spaces allows them to be more proactive and allows them to take more lead. One of the platforms we were talking about this morning was in the same space with the government accelerators. And that is a platform that we allow to speed up the delivery of high priority projects, but through a safe space and using agile practices, both from decision making, procurement, and HR as well. And the third one is actually having this mindset of early adoption. So I would say you need to put your neck out there. It's not an easy space to be there, but I think the ability to embrace the adoption of early adoption is important. Most people would like to see the dust lie down before making any change happen or before any taking decisions happening. This is a common approach across most organizations. But being an early adopter means you adopt Metaverse. So this is an example where the Metaverse is that you don't fear the Metaverse, you adopt it and you see how it will benefit your society, it will benefit your city. Early adoption also means early adoption to emerging technologies that you might be considering. It's too early stages, let's not talk about it now, let's worry about it later. But being part of the conversation in an early stage means you're aware of the risks, means you're aware of what to do and what not to do, means you don't over-regulate for the sake of over-regulate and hence kill the innovation, but you actually give the industry the space to evolve that emerging technology, but you protect the most important aspect, which is privacy, identity, and safety.
That's a brilliant recap of all the different contexts. And one of the things that I'd come across a study from McKinsey a few years ago, which said that if governments only did what has worked elsewhere and just sort of replicated success, governments could save around $3.8 trillion of investment, which they then invest probably towards climate change and digital. It's a mind-boggling figure. That figure's probably changed by now. But what I'm hearing today is just there's so many different learnings around agility. How do we increase the speed at which governments learn from each other on agility? Why is that important, and how do we make that happen?
Well, we're here today. This is the starting point. The World Government Summit and more forums such as the World Government Summit brings us closer to each other, allows us to have these conversations. You talk about let's not reinvent. Across the road, the space on the right is the Edge of Government platform. It's really about choosing cases that we urge governments to actually take, replicate, and scale. So having more conversations. We talked, and I think the theme that we heard a lot, I think in Davos, and we hear it, it's a fragmented world. People are going there, and they're finding their own areas. But we truly believe, and a lot of the international organizations are urging that, is that we need to be more connected, more so than ever. Cross-border collaboration is critical. Networking and programs, we have a network called the Agile Nations. The Agile Nations is really just about bringing countries and governments together to have conversations, to understand and learn from each other, to not reinvent the wheel, is what you said, but to also work on programs that cross the border. So with new technology and with the Metaverse, is there a border in the Metaverse? I'm wondering. I ask myself that question. It's like there probably wouldn't be. So the more we get closer to each other in terms of, and I'm not talking about politics here, I'm not a politician, but more about having similar purpose, similar conversations, worrying about the same areas that we need to look at, but at the same time looking at areas that we need to move forward in. So forums are very important. Networks, Agile Nations is another example. Being part of the conversation, government with private sector and academia rather than each one on their own domains, that's also equally important.
I think that is an incredibly inspiring note to wrap this session up on. I hope you'll agree. It's been such an incredible discussion. Thank you for sharing your wealth of experience, your expertise, and thank you for being an engaged audience. Have a great summit.
Thank you.